This is a Squiz podcast. We're your shortcut to being informed.
Squiz Kids! It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello and welcome to Squiz Kids Today, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Bryce Corbett. It's Tuesday, November 8. In Squiz Kids Today, snakes and planes in New South Wales floods, America's big election day, lunar eclipse tonight, and the Wiggles Christmas song. That's what's making news, kid style.
The lowdown.
Airdrops of food and emergency supplies were taking place in several towns in the New South Wales Central West District yesterday as floodwaters there continued to rise and cut off entire towns. The State Emergency Services was using aircraft yesterday to drop food and medical supplies to communities that had been isolated by the rising rivers of regional New South Wales. The record-breaking rains 2 weeks ago in Central Australia, where the rivers begin their long journey to the coast, have taken this long to make their way downstream and into various rural river systems to cause flooding in towns like Forbes, Lightning Ridge, Walgett and Collarenebri. The emergency airdrops have also included food for livestock, like sheep and cattle, who have also been cut off from their feedlots by the rising floodwaters. And just because Mother Nature occasionally likes to throw a curveball every now and then, warnings were also being issued to residents of those towns to beware venomous snakes in the water. As floodwaters rise, snakes are being flushed out of their homes and forced to seek higher, drier ground, which is often where humans are. Oh dear. Meanwhile, if you were in Melbourne yesterday and found yourself sneezing the house down, maybe keep the tissues close by, as weather conditions are predicted to bring the sort of pollen storm that will have hay fever sufferers ducking for cover. All that rain that La Nina brought us weeks ago has seen lots of grass growing in the northwest of Victoria. And with warm temperatures forecast in Melbourne for the remainder of this week, and with winds coming in from the north, there's likely to be lots of pollen flying around the air. Bless you! Bless you.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in the United States, where a big election will take place today. Called the midterms, it's an election that will decide the composition of Congress and the Senate. Joe Biden will continue to be president, but the other politicians and lawmakers who sit in Congress, which is the US equivalent of our Parliament House in Canberra, are up for re-election. That's 435 seats in Congress and some 35 Senate seats up for grabs. Now, they're called mid-term elections because they always happen midway through the term of a president and are usually used as a way to measure whether the population thinks he or she is doing a good job. Now, one name you're going to keep hearing this week is that of former US President Donald Trump. Yes, you remember him, as he continues to make noises about possibly running for president again in 2024. So why should we be even remotely interested in an election happening in a country thousands of miles away? Because the United States is what's called a superpower, and the decisions its leaders make impacts lots of other countries around the world, including Australia. So, there you are. Impress your parents with those little factoids over dinner tonight. You're welcome.
Spaced out.
What have you got planned for about 9:30 tonight? Tucked up in bed in your jammies? Annoying your parents by refusing to turn out the light? What would you say if I was to give you a perfectly good excuse to stay up late tonight? You'd more than likely say something like this. And that's because tonight, in the night sky, you've got the chance to see a lunar eclipse. What's a lunar eclipse? Lunar eclipses happen when the sun, earth and moon all line up and the earth gets between the sun and the moon and casts a shadow that makes the moon go a reddish colour. It's called a blood moon and it's super cool. Now, assuming the sky is clear, the best time to see the blood moon will be between 9:30 and 10:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So, an hour earlier for those of you in Queensland and a little bit later if you're in South Australia or WA. And remember, blood moons only happen rarely. The next one won't be for another 2 years. So it's totally okay for you to stay up late to see it tonight. And yes, your parents may well hate me for saying that.
Pop Culture Corner.
Put on your dancing shoes, people, and rev up the big red car. The Wiggles have just released a new Christmas song, and it's a song with a message. With their latest tune, Around the World, the coloured Skivvy Brigade have joined forces with the charity World Vision, which helps kids and families in need in countries all over the world. Kids who maybe don't get to go to school or have a roof over their head or a warm bed to sleep in each night or perhaps a meal in their tummy each day. The video for the song features kids from some of these countries dancing along to it, and it's hoped that it will encourage Aussie families, who have perhaps been luckier in the lottery of life, to sponsor a child through the charity. That means donating a little bit of money each month to feed or clothe or educate a child overseas. And it's a cause that's close to the heart of new yellow wiggle, Sehai Hawkins, whose Aussie parents adopted her from Ethiopia in East Africa when she was just 6 months old. I've stuck a link to the song's video in today's episode notes. Enjoy!
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. What sort of eclipse is going to take place in the night sky tonight? Yeah, that's right. It's a lunar eclipse. Question number 2. Which country will stage its midterm elections later today? Yeah, you got it. It's the United States. Question number 3. Which kiddie supergroup has joined forces with kids' charity World Vision for their latest song? Yeah, of course, it's the Wiggles.
Shout-outs.
It's November 8. Only 46 days until Christmas, my friends. Is it too early to put up the Christmas tree? It's also the birthday of Vlad the Impaler, an historical figure widely considered to be the inspiration for the fictional character Count Dracula, the famous vampire, who you lot would know best as Drac from the Hotel Transylvania films. I wonder if it's a coincidence that his birthday falls on the same day as a lunar eclipse. It's also a special day for these Squiz Kids celebrating a birthday today. Zara and Sam from Canberra, Abel from Craigburn, Julian from Kingsgrove, Corey from Cannon Hill, Ellie from Lobethal, Bruno from The Rock, Cameron from Atwell, Sackvig from Forest Lake, Phoebe from Mount Annan, Emily from Jules, Gabby from Yass, Matilda from Diamond Creek, Rose from Kenthurst, Claire from Sutherland, and Aida, who's listening all the way over there in Singapore, Hugh, who's listening all the way over there in Columbus, USA, and Andy, who's listening far, far away in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. And a belated birthday shout-out goes to Ava from Kellyville. And classroom shout-outs today go to Class 5A and Mrs. McIntosh at Carolee State School, Class 3 Green at All Saints Parish Primary School in Albany Creek, Class 5A and Mrs. Gray at Helens Vale State School, Classes 5-6R and 5-6F with Mrs. Rhoda and Mrs. Freeney at Kearns Public School, the Year 4 reading groups at St. Augustine's Primary School in Coffs Harbour, and finally to Hudson, Harvey and Mac, who are homeschooling while they travel around Australia and listen to Squiz Kids every morning. Hope the trip is going well. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout out, or if you're after a classroom shout out, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au or fill out the form on our website. Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids today. We'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out.